Call the meeting to order. We'll start with the treasurer's report.
Want to do the attendance, John?
Do I need to do that?
Yes.
Well, because we're not Zoom-y.
Right, no,
Anymore.
because it's hybrid, you don't have to.
We have the quorum in here and
Right.
at most two remote, we don't need to do that.
Okay, welcome Jim and Ken remotely.
And Paul.
Oh, and
And
Paul,
Paul.
sorry.
I'll forgive you.
Okay, no, I'm just seeing one face at a time because we're seeing the treasurer's report, so. Okay, Ken, go right ahead.
Okay, at the bottom of the report, there is a summary. It shows that we are opening fiscal 2022 with $1,174,000 of funds in the various accounts. So far, in May, we voted to approve, and the town approved $193,000 of grants from that money and bond payments of $142,000. So that's where we're starting right now. On the table in front of us are two grants. One for the town, a historical grant for the town records of $13,000, which we can take out of the historical reserves if we so choose. And a proposal for a recreation grant for North Street, which is $47,000, which we could take out of revenue, shown here at the top here. So going back down to the summary, that's going to total have grant totals of $322,000, leaving us with a total of $685,000 left at the end of the year, if that's what we do. So we're in good shape.
Okay. Does
Any
anybody?
questions?
Mr. Moderator, may I ask a question?
Yes.
Chair, Mr. Chair. Ken, how much was our match this year?
Our match, we're expecting a match this year of $163,000.
And that's 32.3%. That's a lot higher than we've gotten.
It is a little higher than we've had in the past, and not as high as 100%, but
Certainly.
better than before. So it's improving, and that's the result of the various legislative initiatives that were passed last year.
Great to hear. Thank you.
So I guess we're in good shape, even with $47,000 for North Street. We still have lots of cash in our coffers for for one or more good-sized projects come up in the future. We'll be ready for them.
So, a question, Ken, if North Street goes through with town meeting and then we come back with needing another, what is in the North Street project description as $990,000?
Yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
a
look like we'll
lot of
have that
money.
for the following cycle.
That would be a challenge. And perhaps the town could come up with some of that. And maybe there's some other, I don't know, maybe we can find some other, maybe they can find some other funding sources.
I also,
But that's a lot of money. That's, we're going to talk about that project.
yeah, and
on
it's
the
also,
agenda.
it's also going to be a phased project, so that doesn't have to be one bite. It can be over a number of years, so.
Yeah, that will certainly be preferred. And that, if we did it over 3 years, that would make a big difference.
Just wanted to ask about it in context of the report.
And there's also, the potential for, 61A properties to come available as well. And, if we should be able to thread our way through these and get most of it, get the important things done.
Anyone have questions, other questions?
No, he answered mine.
Move to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Just
Aye.
say it.
Yeah,
Call it
'cause
out.
Aye.
All those opposed?
the quorum's in the room, so you-
Motion carried. Thank you. So clerk's report.
Do you want me to screen share the minutes or?
Sure, go ahead.
Ken, are you
Pretty
enjoying your
straightforward.
sailing adventure?
Okay, so
doesn't
here are
know
the
he's gonna
minutes
put
if anyone
too
has
much
any
wine.
questions on them.
Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed?
Aye.
Declare the motion carried.
While we're under the clerk's report, can I just mention one thing? After the public hearing last month, at that, we talked about the need to, update the CPA plan task list, the timeline list. I apologize, I didn't get that done for this meeting. It's just the movement of the reserve articles are in that plan as if we would be doing them at this town meeting of October and fall, when we actually do them in the spring, and then the addition of meeting with CIPC in January. I'll get that for the next meeting.
Okay. I just was tacking that on at the end.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just like, cause I was like, I knew there was something we were supposed to talk about and I was reading the minutes and it's like, that's what it was.
Yep,
Um,
okay.
but we did talk to CIPC,
Colleen.
Colleen, and she said January, so that piece of it's taken care of, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't know that Candy's gonna come, but just as an updated,
Yes, I can screen share that. So, John, do you mind if I talk to this quick?
go ahead.
At the last meeting, when Candy presented her project proposal for the town records restoration project, she was sticking with that, asking for $5,000 each year. And the committee had suggested she speak to Green Dragon Bindery, see if they could take more books. I think, Paul, you had suggested it, as a cost savings, potential cost savings, get some more of these done before the prices go up. She spoke with them, she received a quote. It's attached to, the back of the new proposal that I sent around to everybody, so she's seeking $13,000 now. And what they did was, excuse me, when I get to this, I think it's attached to the back here, yep. So this was what they gave to her as far as what they would be doing. Sorry, I'm gonna get rid of that on there, okay. What they would be doing, which items they would be taking, and what the cost of each one is. And,
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
this certainly is not a big problem, but I think we need to adjust our sunset date.
Yeah, give them more time. Is that your point, Jim?
Exactly.
I would agree with that.
okay,
I'll say at least for upcoming town meeting warrant articles, we have the option to extend the sunset date without going back to town meeting. So it's not as big of a problem as it used to be.
Good point.
But I mean, we can be proactive and just take care of it now, so we don't have to worry about that later on.
Maybe just give them an extra year. That's 3 years. Normally she turns things around in a year, but with more money, I would think 3 years would be more than adequate.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. Just wanted to point out we don't necessarily need to worry as much.
And that's not unprecedented. We've done that before.
So I'm hearing that 3 years is a reasonable amount of time to hopefully get it all done and not have to redo a sunset for that. Okay, so we can,
You need a motion?
No,
So moved.
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
now, I'm gonna ask this again, what I asked the last meeting, because I offered to say the $10,000, and I was saying that I was told no books more than the 5,000 would go out. And now Candy's coming back with the
Nope.
13,000. Okay, is this enough money, again, for her to send out these books? Are these the ones that she's going to definitely send out? And is this enough money to cover that?
so I can see it, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I can see the
It's-
1950, 1950, 1950.
So she went through and based on an assessment of her collection.
Yeah.
And the records that need to be conserved or preserved, came up with that dollar figure. And it's because she knows she's not doing everything.
Right.
She's trying to make a package and say,
But I'm-
okay, this is something I can do reasonably in, I guess, 2
Right,
years.
and that's what I asked
So we're giving
last
her,
time.
but she
and-
didn't have a dollar amount. She was
No.
just guesstimating that 5.
But I did say, why can't we give her 10 instead of the 5? And no, we've been giving her
Because
5 right
we
along.
don't guess.
No, I know that, but I'm just trying to make a point here. Now it's 13. If there's leftover, she can do more after these done at the 3 years, right?
Can I jump in procedurally? What the committee needs to do, Candy came with a proposal for 5,000.
Right.
And you wanted to give her 10. She didn't have supporting documentation to support that 10,000. There was no need to
Right,
go
that was
to it.
explained to me
Okay.
that night.
Right, so at this point, she's presented supporting documentation in her request for 13,000. We don't then give her more than the 13,000 unless she can indicate to the committee that she needs more than 13,000.
Okay, I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
no,
that
I'm just, like, from.
she's covered, and she doesn't have to come back and say, can I have another?
She will come back again.
No, I'm just saying, we give her the 13, but in between this, there might be something different. They go up on a price, or if they're doing this or doing that.
I think.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm
Green
saying,
Dragon is committing to these prices.
okay, that's what I want to
Yep.
know.
And so
Okay.
this way, it's just like if she's building a playground,
Yeah,
this is the price that it needs to be. And if there's a problem in the,
there
during
always
the
seems to
project,
be sometimes an override.
we can
you
deal
have
with
to-
it. And typically
to
we'll
deal with.
say, for construction projects, you need to build in a cost factor of 10, 15, 20%
Mm-hmm.
of contingency. But for this is pretty straightforward. They know, they know the documents,
Yeah.
and they gave her these prices. So this is,
No,
Yeah.
no, I'm happy she's coming back with this.
Yeah.
And that's what I said that night. I wanted to make sure she was covered and she was
Yeah.
doing what she did. And like Jim said, at that time, don't want to let out too many books because they're valuable and all this others. And I agree 100%, but I just want to make sure that she has enough money to cover
yep.
her cost, and she doesn't, look and say, hey, I made a mistake. I need a couple
And-
$1,000
and if,
more.
And that's the case, she can say, I have another project and I
Right.
need more. And it's not like hers is, the land is going away or this
Right.
project will stop because she's,
Because it's got to be a constant going on for years and years and
right,
years.
because it can only be a handful of documents. at one
Jim,
time. I'm
Jim
seeing-
Anderson,
Jim.
Jim Gallagher has his hand raised.
He's being very
I just let it,
patient.
I'm doing too many things. I let Jim Anderson into the meeting and then I got Jim raising his hand. Oh my God.
Jim, go ahead.
I'm combining
So
names.
polite.
Thank you. John, I go back to my question about having a motion here. If I'm not mistaken, I believe we voted on the $5,000.
I think
Request.
this is when we do the motion.
Yes, we did.
Which is next, well, on number 6, which is and 2 more, that we can address the specifics, correct, Joanne?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
there was no motion last time.
Because we knew there was gonna be, or we thought there would be a change.
Right, and this is the meeting where you typically,
Approved.
the committee approves what they're gonna send to town meeting.
So I
Because it
believe
gives-
Jim motioned to accept, and I seconded.
So Jim moved.
Yeah, that's fine.
Jim moved.
Yep.
To accept the new amount of $13,000, which we will then, vote on during item 6. How's that sound?
All right, and we want to remember that we're increasing the sunset date.
Right.
I think what you can do right now, John, if you want, is to put on the table a motion saying that the committee is voting to move this project at the cost of $13,000 forward to town meeting, and then pass that. And then when you go to the item to look at the warrant article language that was drafted, you can then vote to accept the warrant article language with the revision of the sunset date. Does that make sense?
Okay.
2 different motions. So do the motion now to move the project forward.
Okay. So Jim will accept your motion to move the project forward, and I believe Paul
I seconded.
had a second. So a motion and a second to move this project forward for the town records restoration and conservation at $13,000. Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Okay, now 95 North Street. And
Jen Anderson is on.
Jen, welcome. It's so much easier to do Zoom if I'm sitting here with.
Oh, yeah.
Jen, you're muted.
Would you like me to
Much easier to
screen
Zoom when you're not
share
having to use
When
other
you're not
Zoom.
zoomed,
the project proposal?
I'm not catching this thing.
Now, I mean, at home, that's what I'm doing. It's stacked up.
So Jen, I've put up the information from the landscape architect. Is that good, or did you want the project proposal up?
Can we leave
Well, I
this?
guess we can start with the project proposal.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Sandy.
That's what
I
you
was gonna
guys
say-
like. And
I was just
Kristen's
gonna
here too,
say,
so
Go ahead.
okay, I was just gonna say, I have a lot of comments on this proposal.
Okay.
And it's not, it's very specific stuff, but it's more just a lot more definition. You're talking about a conceptual plan for $50,000, and they don't define number of meetings, they don't define what the outreach is gonna be. There's not a good definition of deliverables. So whenever you do a master plan, it can be 10,000, it could be 50,000 or 200,000. It depends upon what you produce and how much time you put into it. And so I have no issue with the general scope. I have no issue with the initial kind of estimate on the proposal. I'm just looking to get a lot more detail and backup so when whoever's running this can have information to know, okay, when you say outreach, well, what does that mean? Does that mean having a hosted webinar through whatever, or does that mean having in-person meetings? Is that 1, 3, 10? Because that's where most of you.
I can definitely speak to that, Sandy, if you'd
Yeah.
like me to.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But you know what I'm saying? It's the definition of, and it's really just tracking what that amount of time is, and also defining the deliverables. So.
Yeah, so I don't want you guys to get too bogged down in the specifics of what this says. All this really is a ballpark quote to back up my request for the $50,000. So by no means is this the actual specific document that we're going to use going forward to produce those deliverables. We're going to produce an obviously more specific RFP with the specific steps we're looking for, and that it would, right, include, let's say, 2 community outreach,
Right.
Public forums or those sorts of things when we go out to bid. So this is just to kind of back up that ask of $50,000 with the idea of, that this is just, like I said, a ballpark estimate. So hoping you guys don't get too, into the nitty gritties of it, because it's just a very generalized document at this point before we would get way more specific with the request for bids.
And if you do go for an RFP, I'd be more than happy to help with some language, reading about, developing a base plan, and from GIS, there's very specific resources and very specific ways to make sure that it's done in a manner that's repeatable and that can be transferable to someone doing a survey and things like that. And then the same thing, happy to, some of the wording in here is not quite what I would use in
Right.
master planning effort, but they're minor, kind of more technical things that I don't think we need to totally get hung up on, but that's just an offer on that.
Yep, no, thank you. That's why he went a little more detailed than I was anticipating, but I wanted to make sure I had something for you guys to be looking at to show that I had some support behind my ask.
Yep.
Is there any other, oh, Jim's got his hand up, I'm sorry.
Jim,
I have 2 questions. Jen, first, the $3,000 that you're getting from the other source, is that a deal done? Are you comfortable that that's going to happen?
Yep, that's both recreation and conservation splitting that, and that's what we knew we were confident that we could contribute.
Okay, my second is, we always get nervous when, now we've got an estimate here of $50,000, and that's how much you're coming forward and asking for again. And I'm wondering if it might make sense to put in like a 10% so that we don't get in the middle of this and all of a sudden find that we need more money while this is still being done?
I guess that's what you guys, yeah, can decide. Again, looking at what we paid to do the community park behind the library. This is obviously a much bigger parcel, but a lot of it can't be used, and we're not going to be going as deep into infrastructures and those sorts of things as we did before. And that was a $34,000 plan. So this company that we've used before felt pretty confident with their experience from other parks and what we were looking to do, that this was a pretty solid number. But
Yeah, and I would add to that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and I would add to that, the way you write the RFP, it's not to exceed. So they have a responsibility to submit the information, what's included in the RFP and whatever proposal contracts you execute. So that's really more of a making sure the document. That's for a conceptual master plan type of process. It's different when you get into construction, other things, because then you get into unforeseen conditions. This isn't. This is you trying to figure out what the conditions are. So I think it's a little bit easier to stick with a number as opposed to when you get further along. So.
And why are you using CBA, not somebody else? And why haven't you contacted two other people to come forward to us?
Well, no. So like I said, I just reached out to someone we worked with before to give some supporting documentation to that number. So when we go and do the RFP, we would obviously be soliciting bids at that point and coming back with quite a few more options to look at.
Okay.
This is just an estimate. This was just someone who's giving us an estimate.
And my second question: why, on this property, we rushing to it now and not putting it off for a while?
I wouldn't like to say we're rushing. I mean, it was a very long process to go through the donation process. So we got this parcel donated. It was accepted at town meeting last spring, this past 2020 spring town meeting. And so, with where you guys were at with some projects that you've either completed or that may be further down the pipeline, I thought this was a good time. I wanted to, obviously, the family who donated it would like to see some progress, and so I wanted to, be able to move forward if we can on it.
Okay. And do you think it's going to be up to the up to the 975 in the end?
Oh, I wouldn't think so. There's a lot of, he gave us a very broad range, and obviously, and that's going to be dependent on what the community outreach process is. But there's also a lot of in-kind work that can be done on this, especially when it comes to the trail system that we'd be looking to do. So I don't see.
You haven't reached out to any of the neighbors with the new neighborhood being built there and with the old neighborhood being there. And are you using the house and the barn that's still there, or has that been sold off?
No, so that's why this was originally donated to us as 93 North Street, and now since those parcels have been divided and that house is now separate. And that's
okay.
93. This has actually become 95 North Street.
Okay.
The rest of this parcel.
Yeah, because I knew the families and we grew up together, went to school. All right.
Any further discussion?
So
Okay, no, we appreciate you pulling all this together. I know it's not easy. I know it's been a long process, and I know you want to strike while the iron's hot and start. That doesn't mean it's not going to continue to take a while to get this done, but at least this is the first and most appropriate step. Do you have a comment?
You wait on anything, and the only thing that happens is the price goes up.
Right.
So I think you're doing great, Jen. Thank you.
yeah, so I do have some concerns with the level and timing of the outreach that I briefly touched on in our last meeting, and that with the level of detail in this proposal we have in front of us, it doesn't really help me feel any more comfortable at all. Just in terms of being able to gather that feedback, get a good idea of the scope of what the community, wants that also matches with what recreation wants. Because I imagine the top of the range here is going to be untenable for town meeting. I fear that because of how the super park went. And I just, for less things than the super park was going to have, it's basically the same amount of money we were asking the first time. And, and besides the planning, I'm talking the actual implementation. So I have some concerns around that this proposal just doesn't feel fleshed out enough for me to feel comfortable with it.
To do the $50,000 feasibility?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel
don't
that,
feel it either.
there some more, for me personally, just some more details on the intent of getting community involved in this feasibility, so we can actually get, a design of plans and what we're going to do, and a better understanding of why it's going to cost as much as we are. We got between 500,000 and $1 million basically in the range. That's a huge difference.
But that's the whole point of this process, is to, you have a consultant do that work, just like we had a consultant who did our preservation plan, and we didn't interview the town before we did the plan. We had her interview the town and have the surveys and discussions. That's the whole point of having this.
I
to
understand
gain that, gather that information.
Yeah, the point for me is that there's, in this proposal for doing the feasibility study, there's not really much detail in how we would expect community to be involved, what the timing of community involvement
And
is.
that's what the RFP will say, and that's what
Yeah.
all the bids will come back.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that, I mean, I saw that too. I wanna know the number of meetings, I wanna know the stuff, what's happening.
Yeah, there's nothing.
But based on what Jen was saying is, this is the information to get the CBC funding. The next step is to write an RFP. So when you write the RFP, that's why I said I was more than willing to help, because when you write the RFP, we can be very specific about, identifying the type of outreach, the number of meetings, the, target, audiences, those type of things.
Yeah,
So-
I think I am looking for, at least for me, something in between what we have and an RFP, something in that middle. Because what, my fear is with us going to town meeting with this after the stuff that happened at Super Park, with how that, we spent the money on the planning twice, because they spent, 2 separate times to plan it out, and then it failed at town meeting to actually be implemented.
But that was a political issue. I don't think
But-
it had anything to do with Super Park. It had all to do
And-
with politics.
I disagree, but
Okay,
by-
go ahead. Let Kristen,
can I finish my thought first,
ahead.
please?
go ahead.
But the point for me is that if we are not able to have some better identification, if we go to town meeting with this, which is, we don't need the full RFP to go to town meeting as far as I'm concerned. But if you go to our town meeting with this, which is very vague, and it has in it the 500,000 and 975,000, it's not going to be enough to convince people that we can spend this on a passive recreation. That's my fear, and I want to see this.
And they're gonna say why.
Okay, I'm gonna let recreation, go ahead, Kristen.
So one major difference between the super park and this project is this is an open space, passive recreation facility. And we have the open space plan that we just worked really hard to complete. And that outlines, like in the charts, what the priority was already identified through public outreach for our town. And that says protecting the water supply in recreation areas is number one. And then number two was passive recreation. So that was identified as one of the top priorities in that open space plan that utilized public outreach. So I think that already indicates that the town supports that. I understand it kind of sounds like what you're requesting is maybe you don't like the order of things, or you want to find out that the town's willing to do this before we go to them with a plan. But I think
It's a little bit, not quite. I don't want the town to say, yes, we're going to do this, and then we go to the plan, and then, we do it. it's a little bit more nuanced than that. I want the town to have a indication in the in the proposal we can go to the town meeting with that says essentially to the town members that we will include you in this process from early on till till the end. We're going to design this to what you as town folk want, and we're going to our cost is 900,000 or 500,000 or maybe we limit it more specifically in this. It's I just fear that it's going to be a much harder sell with what we have than what we could have. What we could have is something in between this.
Go ahead, Sandy.
I is kind of what you're reacting to is kind of the sticker shock of that $500,000 to $1 million. Is that, and I get the whole outreach part because that needs to be defined. But is it also just kind of the sticker shock because you could do something for 100,000, or you could do something, and the way this is done, and sometimes it's just the way something is presented, so maybe the first phase is a small parking lot and picnic pavilion, and that's the only ask. But it's the way this is done is it's got everything in there.
Yeah, my main thing coming to this meeting before I read this was the community outreach. That was a thing that I didn't come out of the last meeting before today with that feeling like that was satisfactory. Then I read this and this sticker shock all in one project. Essentially, the town looking at this and going, "We're going to spend 50,000 this October, and then in a year from now or whenever we'll be back at town meeting with 500,000 as our minimum, or 900,000."
But that's
That's if everything goes.
she'll be at the town meeting.
Hand raised, I just wanna let you know that. Okay.
Paul, okay, let's let Paul speak. Paul.
Thank you. So I don't think we need to go into the level of detail that this ask has. I think it's, somewhat too soon to know, to be throwing out prices and stuff when we know that some things will be done by other groups, in-kind services. There may be donations that are done. We may have groups in town that want to help with blazing trails and whatnot. I think the focus on this needs to be the feasibility study of what can be done and to have the community outreach piece of it. So maybe we're getting into the weeds ahead of ourselves, because I think that outreach and all will lead to an understanding of what the town really wants and what we can reasonably afford and what makes the most sense.
Kristen?
The proposal that you saw too, I had sticker shock too, because all of our discussions up to that point never came to that magnitude. So when I talked to Jen about it, she explained the same thing like Sandy said. We had talked about brainstormed all kinds of ideas what we could put there. And so that consultant took all those ideas and he threw them in there because we had discussed maybe we'd like this. And he just thought, let's do it all at once, and then the town can decide, pick and choose from that list. It didn't necessarily mean we want every single thing on this list. So you are correct, like that's a big number, and realistically, it's probably considerably less.
But if you pick and choose, if you throw it all at town meeting, and you tell everybody to pick and choose, okay? What's gonna be their first reaction is, why? Why are we picking and choosing and they don't have a decision on their own? There's a group that is supposed to be doing this for us and presenting us to this, but now they're giving us this. They haven't reached out to the new neighbors that are building next door, the existing neighborhood next door. They have not contacted them and said, what do you think of this? Mrs. Ingvalt wanted this done. Some of you know her very well, and from, the people on North Street and around town all know the Ingvalts very well, and saying, she would have liked this and like this. What did you think? And I mean, a questionnaire. I mean, do we have to wait for this study to be
That's what
done?
the
That's
study
what
is
will
all
happen
about.
between
That's what
Okay,
happens in the
but-
the 50,000.
people
We'll
with
have,
the
we're
hands
not
raised.
gonna get to that point, the implementation phase, till at the best, spring of 2023.
I'm-
So we'll have that whole time to do what you're talking
But
about.
I'm looking at is we go to town meeting in the fall and say $50,000 to do this,
Yeah.
Okay? And people say, oh, it's 900,000 or this or that with this paperwork. And it's sticker shock, really it is. And I'm right up there with the sticker shock. I mean, we
But
can.
no one is saying
Well,
that this
how
is
much
what it's
was-
gonna be.
How much would it be if somebody went in there and,
How
just,
much was Ray's proposal? This is almost the same thing we had with Ray's proposal. No one seemed to care about his proposal. He came in on the back of a piece of paper
and what
and said-
proposal is that?
That was
For
for
Whitney
Whitney
Park.
Park.
for Whitney Park.
Oh, the 40
hundreds
pages
of
I have
thousands
at
of
home that
dollars.
I'm
I
gonna
mean-
submit this year.
Whatever. It says no one seemed to care about it then. Now all of a sudden we care about it. You know,
But it's,
I'm
we're
all
getting
about.
apart with
No, I'm
the
also-
horse is the problem.
John, we
wasn't
have
on
some
the-
hands up out here.
Yeah, John,
Okay.
need to
Sorry,
recognize. the people on Zoom.
I think I did
Paul
Paul
was first.
last, so I'll do
Okay.
Jim, and then,
Paul was first.
Paul
okay,
has
Paul,
Thank you,
go
Jim.
ahead, sorry, trying to be fair.
So we're running around in circles here.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't do a feasibility. You can't end up with an idea what you want to do without doing the feasibility study. It's basically the chicken or the egg, right? So you have to do a feasibility study. We don't have to talk about every idea that the group conceptualized as to possibilities of what's going on here. That is what the feasibility study is for. It is to get that information. So you have to spend money in order to understand that. So I'd like to, move forward with this motion.
Okay, we gotta address Jim.
Okay,
first.
I basically would reflect on what Paul said, and the bottom line being is that this is all done in the presentation at town meeting. So we're not going to be waving $900,000 figures around when we're looking to get a study done. All we're doing is, all we would have to do is, here's some things that we've thought about, and these are the things that will be coming out to the town about to see what your thoughts are. So what we're doing right now is a study.
Right.
And let's just see it for what it is. We want to make a study. We're going to go out and ask people once we have the study done. That's part of it. All right, so let's move on.
Yeah, and I think it's as simple as where the section that says future expenses, you change that to potential implementation, and you take out all the money.
Yep.
And it's a list, and that's what and the whole idea of the study is to figure out what is that list. And you can even just take out the whole thing if you
You
want.
go back
May
to
I-
what Ken said. You do it over 3 years, and you're never coming up to
May
that
I,
money.
Mr. Chairman, so, can we ask Jen to revise the project proposal to take out those numbers? And just include a list of potential ideas that does not have numbers attached to it? Is that possible, Jen?
Yeah, anything is. The only reason I did that, and he got more detailed, like I said, than I had anticipated, but the timing turnaround was short, was just to give you guys a ballpark idea, right? So before you committed to 50, to look at like, well, what are we really talking about? Before we give you 50, what are we looking for next? So yeah, it's going to be that same sort of, we'll lay out the plan with all the ideas, work with the public and what they like, they don't like, and figure out what that number is, and then figure out if it's a phased approach, type thing, or what we're able to do at that time based on available funding. So whatever you guys would like to
So
see, we can.
So if
We
you
do.
can amend your application, then to retitle it potential implementation, take out the costs so that it's, because this is not what's gonna exactly happen, this is potentially what could happen. Is that, you said that's something that you will be able to do that?
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I guess at this point, it's already out there. So, what are you trying to look at?
Well, I think that my
so-
whole point that I haven't been able to make is, you've been to this rodeo before. You've done RFPs before. Evan is here. Sandy has volunteered to help. There's a whole team of people that will do an RFP. I don't think any of these things that you're not seeing are gonna slip through the cracks, because these are standard things, we discuss them all the time, every time a project comes. I mean, just the most recent one was our plan, and all the pieces of that you expect to have completed as part of that cost. So I have full faith that you have the ability to do that, you have the resources here with either staff or volunteers on this board or others to help make the best RFP to accomplish what you would like to do with 95 North Street. And I think what you're saying is,
And I'm happy to have you guys review that before it actually gets posted. I mean, if
Is-
that's,
it's good to hear sticker shock, because I think all of us, I think sticker shock, but I also know we're not approving $900,000. We're approving 50. We're approving 50 to determine what can we do, what potentially can we do, what do we want to do with public input with the neighbors. At that point, those people will be contacted. Find out what's the best use of that property.
John, if I may, Ken has not spoken
Yep.
on this topic
Okay.
at all. I know you guys
I
have.
was gonna go to Ken first.
Yep, okay, Ken?
Yeah, I agree that the sticker shock in the future expense section is untenable. And I think that the proposal is much more acceptable if you strike everything after the first sentence in the future expenses section. Just strike it all.
Take it out.
Just say it's difficult to precisely estimate the end.
Until you have town input, how could you?
Right, until the proposal's done, there's no way to speculate. Any speculation is just gonna spike the project at town meeting.
So take out this future expenses section that I have on the.
Yeah, even the potential point of reference, everything after the words "the final plan" in the first sentence, just strike the rest of it. You can just say
Where-
that
From one
the future
potential point
future
after the
cost
first sentence.
depends on what the town decides to do based on the results of this plan.
Yep, exactly.
I don't know where he is.
I
It's
think
like,
he's at the end of the first sentence.
It's the
Just
first
highlight from then
sentence
down.
under future expenses should
Oh, it is
stay.
difficult to
Everything else should
precisely,
go.
I understand.
Now
Okay.
go to one potential and then
Right
just
here.
highlight from there down.
Strike everything after that.
Right.
And you could replace it with a sentence that says that, how much it costs depends on
What you do.
what the town decides to do based on the results of based on the plan.
because it may say, we want this open space and nothing else.
Plan could say we like it the way it is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, you guys can decide who's
or not.
first.
I'll be real quick. So, sorry, Rich.
Okay,
You take it up with him.
I'm second.
So I do basically agree with Ken on this. I think getting rid of most of this section is going to be a lot better be able to get this past the town meeting. And my only thing that I know will come up, because I've seen it come up with every pay money to do a plan, is what is our target or estimated total cost of implementing this? I don't think we need to necessarily have that answer, but we need to have a answer, if that makes sense. Meaning, we need to be able to answer that, essentially, like what we just said, that it'll depend on what we actually end up deciding to do as a town, and then it'll come.
That would
back.
happen after the outreach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think at town
what
meeting,
the
and
town
that's what
decides.
Jen's job is to say, it could be 0 if we choose to go total passive. It could be 25,000 if we use a lot of town labor or volunteers. It could be more than that, but it all depends on what this study decides, because we could say we want the best of all these things and it's $10 million, but we know that's not going to happen.
Well, the other thing too, you're saying the study, okay? First of all, my first question is, are you asking for the 50,000 plus you have 3,000 already donated, or is it 47,000 you're asking us for?
47.
Okay. Now, secondly is, what happens if this feasible, study comes back and nobody wants it? Do
You
we
mean the
just end
project?
it right there, or
Yep. If there's no money or there's no
no
appetite,
interest in it,
Then-
or anything else? So we're just gonna do the study, which we're asking for tonight, nothing else. We all got sticker shock, and got our heads blown off a little bit because of this, of what the price could be. Okay? I'm for making a motion that we grant the $50,000 for a feasibility study and see what comes back.
They're only asking for 47 though.
For 47, I'm sorry.
And that's what we're doing.
So I just want to make sure, Kristen, and then I'll cut off any further.
That's a
And you
motion,
made a
I
motion.
second
I
it.
made a motion.
I have a motion
second it.
that,
Ken
Ken
Got
seconded it.
seconded.
a motion for $47,000 for the feasibility study. Have a second. Any further discussion, Kristen?
Well, I agree. I agree. I hate
you get to yes, keep
engaging in all
moving.
of these feasibility studies and then it doesn't come to fruition. Like, I want to see plans that we do all this work on happen in town. And I'm hoping with our new town planner and all of the things that we have in place, these frameworks that we've agreed on, master plans, open space plans, are going to identify those things for us so that we don't engage in these feasibility studies to do things that are never going to happen. So I think we're all on the same page. We don't want to do this and then have it not happen at the end. But if that's what it comes to, then we'll continue to be in this situation where we're wasting money on stuff that never happens. So I agree. And
No, but we have to, all honestly, we have to do our I'm sorry.
Due diligence.
Yeah, thank you. My mouth. But we have to do that to make sure this gets through town meeting. Okay? I don't want somebody to say, oh, geez, it's gonna cost us $1 million, and it's not. It may cost us $70,000 or $80,000. We don't know the end figure because we really don't know what's gonna be there.
But it also depends on
What-
what do we want to find.
Right.
They could say we want $1 million,
Right.
and we'll say we're comfortable with 300. You fix
Right.
that and make come
Just
back.
like Ken said,
Recreation.
about the Robinson property, we have X amount of dollars ready for that, and we can borrow a bond to do this and do that. Well, I don't like spending money that we don't need to. I'm like Jim, freeze for me, and so I'm up for my motion,
Okay.
and I get the second, and I'd like to,
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Right.
All
Aye.
those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. So thank you. There you are, Jen.
Yeah, so can I just ask a question, I guess, about the documentation? I mean, because you already have that, and I feel like I'm a little confused. I'm like, the horses are already out of the barn here. This is document, like what you're trying to add, I guess, to go to town meeting with? Or, I mean, you're voting on,
Yeah.
Joanne, you have been voting on the warrant article tonight? Language
Go ahead,
two?
Ken.
Yeah, don't, bury that $975,000 number. That's bogus. Those prices
future
are
expenses,
ridiculous.
take it right
Are
out.
ridiculous. And, I think that, even the 500,000 price is probably high for what they're proposing there. So you need to deep six that, just get rid of it, delete it and, anything you print, don't print it without it. Because if that number gets to town meeting, this will fail. And it's, whoever made up that $975,000 number is crazy.
Yeah, just from here.
No, he definitely went on
down.
obviously the high end. I just felt like with the
It's not the
previous
high end,
projects that have come in-
it's absurd, just completely absurd. It's
No, I
not a
think
high end.
basically
I
what
think
we're
the
looking to do
500,000
there-
is the high end.
Yeah, I mean, basically what
I
we're looking
just
to
did
do
the
there and what we
library.
just priced out at another park is totally,
Over
different
here.
things, but with
Trail
the idea
construction
that I
for
thought,
$150,000 is nuts.
I can't have you guys talk.
That's just
that you
crazy.
guys would want to know, what you're getting behind versus me just asking for 50, I would, versus the other projects that have recently come in front of you and kind of saying, well, what are we getting into? That's what I wanted him to try to
It
convey.
depends on what the town wants to do, what the town wants to spend for what it wants. And that's a future question, not a current one.
Yeah, and if I can just add to that, if you were coming for the money to do the actual project, then yeah, I would agree with you, Jen. But because this is a feasibility study, I think it's premature.
Okay, we
And you don't
beat
want-
this
you don't
horse.
wanna
It is dead.
basically,
Yes, the
right.
discussion is
erode
over.
what you're
I'm
trying to
cutting
do.
you off. Sorry.
Can I jump in for 1 second? Jen, can you get from them a new copy of the proposal that just doesn't spell out all those dollar amounts, but ends it where Ken.
Oh, I can't. I'm just trying to figure out in what and where it's going to be used next.
So then from here, I will attach that to your original application and most likely put it on the website.
Okay.
And at some point, it'll be on Facebook. These are the projects CPC is bringing forward to town meeting, and allow people to look at those proposals.
Okay.
Jen, can I ask one question? Before we got waylaid down this tunnel, weren't you gonna show us what the plan was? Was that what you were gonna do first? What was the first thing you said you wanted to propose first?
There is no plan.
The
No,
submittal.
Joanne's asking if she
Just the
wanted to put
scope?
up my
No, I'm
actual
asking what you
application
wanted.
up first.
What did you want to present first? Sandy asked you to go out of order a little bit, which is fine, but you would gonna,
The application?
was that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was just whether you wanted
Okay,
to see
all right,
the
never mind
application. And
Okay.
You stand by. I cut off all.
Yes, no, fine, I'm in.
Sorry, I let
We've
everyone
already
down.
No,
voted
no, it
on
wasn't
it.
your fault. It's fine, it's fine.
Not very good at
It
enforcement.
had to be done, I
No.
guess.
It's
Okay.
already been,
So Joanne, do you also need to vote on the warrant article language
We're gonna
tonight?
do that later.
That's
that's after.
That's
That
next.
comes up
Oh.
next.
That is next.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you.
Oh,
All right.
no,
Are
thank
you
you.
on warrant article
I'm on
language?
warrant articles, and the first
All right,
one
let
I
me-
have
Let me bring those up.
is North Street.
Open space.
Okay. So here are warrant articles that I drafted in anticipation of this, and the first one is 95 North Street. So if you want it, guys, is this big enough?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can offer the motion if you want, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I move that we approve the warrant article Title 95 North Street Design Services as drafted.
Second,
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
All
Aye.
those opposed? Motion carried. Next is town records preservation
Now, if I may with this one, you said you'd like to increase the,
by 1 year.
by 1 year, so we'll make that 2024. And
We were sticking with
Ken,
that.
I have it coming from the Community Preservation Act budgeted reserve. You want it from the Community Preservation Act historical reserve, correct?
Correct.
Yes?
Yes,
Okay.
motion to accept the CPC town records preservation as modified.
Second.
Joanne,
Are you
took
ready,
out the
Joanne?
fiscal year thing, is that?
Hearing
wanna take
a
that
motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed?
Joanne,
Yeah,
Motion
I'm
carried.
hearing you. Okay,
Town records
Ken,
preservation.
I need you,
Yes.
if you would, look at the wording of this. Brooke, you think I took out?
well, you took out fiscal year, I don't know if it needs to be the fiscal year 2022.
Does fiscal year need to be in with
It's in
Community
the one above it. so-
Preservation Act? I don't think so. With historical?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
the reserve is
Thank you,
just
though.
the
All right.
pot
Okay,
that we
okay.
build up.
It's 13,000 instead of
Okay.
5,000.
Oh, because it was okay.
And it's okay to leave it in the North Street one?
Yes,
This is
because
different.
that's a specific account,
On,
Just make
That's
it,
a
whereas the
specific
historical
account
account
name.
just kind of always exists.
Okay.
I can build
We
them.
spend it down.
Yeah.
All right, next.
those are only.
Project
warrant
Was that
update.
it?
Yeah, I
Hang
think
on.
you're on project update.
Okay. So that's taken care of. Town records. Paul, do you have any further updates on the town records? Sandy gave us a pretty good update. Oh, Sandy. Candy gave us a
oh,
pretty good update.
yeah, we had our
last-
update last month.
meeting.
And you've got the updated proposal, so, no, I have nothing new to
Okay.
report.
Thank you. Gravestones, absolutely nothing.
What is the historical gravestones?
Funny you should ask.
Well, I'm kind of new, guys, so
Yeah.
I'm asking.
John's ears are burning.
Yeah. And my brain is blank as normal. Blanker. Roger Holman. I don't know if you knew
Yeah,
Roger.
Roger. Yeah,
Had, when CPC first started,
yeah.
proposed doing restoration of several headstones.
Okay.
After he died, I kind of took this over. I got estimates to do it,
Yeah.
and it never did happen.
Okay.
And
Am I-
so they keep dogging me to either do the because it has no sunset, and this project is the project that has forced us to have sunsets, because all of our projects would sit like this one and not get done.
Okay. So
That is there are several
may I ask?
Gravestones at the Olden Indian Burying Ground across from the
Okay.
high school.
That's where we're
That
gonna
we're-
start?
No, this is very specific to a handful of the most historic and likely to suffer loss because they're made of slate.
Yeah.
And the slate will spall and
So
crack
we'll,
off,
we'll,
pop off. So
right,
if
the
it
slate
pops off,
will,
you have no longer have a
it's
head.
just like a, what do you
Fluff
call
off.
That's all.
it? Piece of paper.
It's,
it'll fly.
It's just real thin and it can come right off. And so that's what that project is.
So are we just letting that slide by, or
It's
are we looking
you're
for
looking at
somebody to
me.
take it over?
Yes, it's my problem that it's not gotten done.
So I had sent to John some information about some people from another town I know that are doing work on it. We did mention that maybe if it's not done by the end of this summer or work has started on it, we would
Just
go to town meeting,
And
close
dissolve?
it out and dissolve it.
Okay, my question is then, as the new member of the board here, of the committee, is it to get all the facts from you or Joanne? And if I'm willing to donate my time to see if we can do something. Jumping in with 2 feet, guys.
sure.
I
John,
mean,
why don't you have all the info? Why don't you?
if you give it all to me,
I can-
and I can look and see what chemicals can be used
No,
on it.
well, that's just it.
No, I mean
it's
water and soap and stuff like that.
basically just water, but it's
Right.
not cleaning them. It's to prevent them
From
damage.
decaying
So whether
more.
that means a little shelter is built over it, or if it's consolidated so that it won't, that they use special reversible type glues so that it won't pop off.
Right.
Or one of the options was to replicate it, put the replicated headstone in the ground and then put the restored one inside.
Inside the replicated one.
Inside
A building
building.
or something.
Oh,
So
okay.
do you put
More
it
so as a,
permission.
yeah,
Okay,
at
so
the town hall?
I-
preservation of it.
So,
I would like, as a member here, to try,
sure.
I'm using the word try, okay? To live up to your standards of this project, and take it on.
Okay.
If you can give me all the information and how it should be done or whatever. I'd like to try to replicate some of these.
The primary stone that,
John, I'm sorry. Can we do this
yep.
outside the meeting if that's okay? Only because we got some more to
Sure.
get
Yeah.
through.
It's
I
just
mean,
one-
No, I'm
if
just
the
saying,
committee- if the committee
I want it on
is-
record
if
that
the
I'm
committee
trying.
would like to discuss this now, that's fine. But I see you
No,
going
you don't
down
have
into
to-
some weeds again, and
No,
it's a
it's one
conversation
project,
between the
it's
two
one
of you.
stone, it's a double head portrait headstone.
Okay.
By James News, a very well-known carver. So that's the project, that one. There are
Okay.
many that could be done, but that is the project.
Okay,
So I'll follow up with you.
please.
I wrote notes and I don't know what my notes say.
The next one's Grafton Common.
Captain Common. I just wrote COM
Yep.
and I'm like, oh, what COM
And
is?
Paul, I saw your email. You sent me that bill and I paid it.
You did. I couldn't find where I had stored it,
I
so
paid.
good. I'm not
I've-
losing my
I've
mind.
tried to
Thank you,
improve
Joanne.
those.
You did. No,
It's just one stone.
Okay, Paul, you want to give us a quick update
On the townhouse, or excuse
on
me,
the
the
common?
town common. So work has been stalled due to an inability to secure some supplies that we need to do it. The main thing was the granite, which I know our walkways are brick, but they are shored up by granite. And the contractor really wants to have that granite on site. I have not been able to get up there. The hope was that it would be able to start this week. I have not heard from Andy since earlier in the week, so I do not know if work has commenced. Has anyone been up there to
I
see
don't
if?
believe it has.
No, there's nothing
I
going
drove
on.
by today and there's nothing there. Nobody's working, nobody's doing anything.
I
Right.
thought it was
So that's
rain.
what the holdup is. Once we have that granite, we will be able to hit the ground running. At this point, felt we were about 2 weeks behind our schedule. If they don't start this week, that'll push it 3 weeks. There is going to be work going on that they're going to be taking on at the library as well. So they will still be on site into September and October. Plus, we have the bandstand that hopefully we'll be moving forward with once we are able to get approval for the change order from the select board. The plans were being finalized for that so that we could do our estimate and get the price from Jam Corp for that and then go to the select board. It was our hope to be able to go to them at their next meeting, which I believe is the 7th. Is that the Tuesday?
Yeah.
After, yeah, so the 7th. So that is still our game plan at this point.
What about the water pipe? Are you having the water company pay for that, or because that
So-
needs a change order?
Yeah, so that is a conundrum that we haven't solved yet. We haven't gotten specific. We've asked several times for the water district to supply us specifics on what the work is that needs to be done so that we can get pricing and whatnot on that and to just understand the scope. One of the interesting things is why they are a for-profit. Really, the only thing on the common is that involves them at all is the irrigation system, the water sprinklers up there, which they really don't have any involvement in. So it's kind of in a weird place. They have offered to provide the valve, so the material that we would need to replace. They're looking to take advantage of the labor that we have on site. But at this point, we still don't know if that is an appropriate thing to bring forth. We're still trying to finalize that. And, obviously I stress that we really ideally would need to have that level of detail for tonight's meeting, knowing our timeline. And I haven't received that information. So I don't expect we're going to be moving forward with that change order.
Because it does need a change order because it's not
Yes,
the
it does.
original.
Yep, and that was never in question.
Right.
It's just a matter of whether or not it's even appropriate
And
to
it
do
would,
that. So
and from what I've done a little study on, it is the water district's problem, not ours.
What's the town's problem?
Well, the
'Cause it's
town's problem,
town's
but-
water that doesn't
Yeah,
have
it's
a
a-
backflow
it's a-
restrictor that the code says they have to have.
Right,
It just
Right.
happens to be
But we
on
can't
the
do it.
common, and that's the project we're working.
right, but we can't do it underneath the orders that we have.
Right.
Or go 50-50 with them unless the select board says we can.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
At this point, I don't think we're moving forward with that. They did not provide us with the information that we asked for. At least I wasn't provided it, and otherwise I would have had that to go over with you tonight.
So Paul, 3 weeks puts it at what date?
Well, we were originally hoping to be done at the end of the month, so you're talking 3 weeks into September, I would say at this point.
1st of October.
And that's for the regular part, but we also want to fold in the bandstand. So my expectation is they're going to be there on site through October. That's my guess at this point.
And when you said that if they don't start it this week, are you talking basically if they don't start it tomorrow? Or
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, there's only one more day left in the week, so yes, it would be tomorrow. So they were waiting on the granite. My assumption is, since I did not hear from Andy and from all apparent observations here, there was no work done as of today, that they still don't have the granite.
Are you anticipating any other
Delays.
supply issues? Because we're seeing a lot of issues on the construction side of things.
Yeah, I would love to say that I'm not, but that's pretty much across the board. I'm redoing my kitchen, and I ordered new appliances back in March, and my refrigerator is still not in. So, I mean, it's across the board. There are issues
It is.
with getting stuff in.
Yeah, but
I
it's
do
like,
know our
yeah.
lights have been ordered. We've already, they're working on the lights for the archways, which means they finally have the material. So I'm hoping that's a good sign that the other lights won't be delayed the way the archway lights were. It's supply and demand, right? It's
Yeah, supply is the issue. There's a lot of things
Yep.
that are just not available, actually.
Yep.
And is the plan still to have, if the walkway and the lights, for example, are all done, or the bandstand's not, is the plan to still open the common other than the bandstand?
that is our hope, that we'd be able to just cordon off the bandstand area and let people be able to use the rest of the common. But with the walkways, those will have to be done before that can happen.
Okay, thank you. The weights and measures are gonna be installed in the
Wheelock room.
Wheelock room, the old, what we know as the old library. And I'm not real sure because the library is having the exact same problems you just mentioned. We still don't have all the shelves.
Right.
We don't have the phones. We don't have a lot of things that this should have all been done, and we're just waiting. So, but that's the discussion that's been had. The library director, one of the trustees, the historical commission all agreed on the location in the reading room. So that's all set. It's just a matter of when this can go in. So that's almost done. Lions Club. Jim, do you have any updates?
Yep, they're currently working on finishing up the driveway. They're awaiting the engineering plan for the drainage and also the engineering plan redesign for the septic system, which is remarkable here because that redesign is going to help reduce the costs associated with the septic. So that's good news too. But they're piling away.
Okay, thank you. Cisco, do we have an update?
We do actually.
Okay.
So Ray Gould and the tribal elders met with the architect Tom Chalmers on June 26th, several hours, and they reviewed the drawings and a project overview, reviewed restoration plans for each room, which of course all vary according to the time period of construction, as most of you know. They are evaluating and discussing the immediate structural and preservation needs for like pest control and structural engineer to assess the basement, that kind of thing. At this point, they're waiting for drawings from Tom Chalmers, architecture, from Austin Design, and a scope of work from the structural engineer. So hopefully in September.
Okay, good. Thank you. The ADA projects from recreation.
For the most part, we're almost finished with that project. She moved really quickly on that. We've got about $20,000 left, I believe, approximately. But we have until a year from the fall to use it, so we have quite a lot of time. But I think the remaining funds are going to go towards additional matting for the surface in the playground area, that additional matting she needs. And then one other thing would be ramping to connect to the batting cages at, I believe, Ferry Street. But I don't know if that'll be the entire 20,000. We might have some left over.
Were they able to fix the damage at airport? Because that was an additional project that had to be done, that something happened and
They were gonna make the
they had to do some.
access
That
to
was
the
done.
batting cages.
Was that
Remember
completed?
yeah, Jen's still on. The damage that happened at airport was taken care of, correct?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, we should be ready to play fall ball there
Good.
this year.
Okay. Thank you. And the last project is the weed abatement for
Yes.
Quinsigamond.
And I got a very detailed update from Bill Nelson regarding all of that. Basically, it hasn't started yet, and that's because they need to do all of the work in all of the bodies of water that feed into Flint and Hobie ponds, and it also had to do with all the rain. That has backed them up because of the blooming algae and things. But he did say that actually they'll be doing the work at what he considers to be the best time to do it, which would be in the very late summer, early fall. So they're looking to start work in those bodies of water that we funded probably around beginning to end of September, somewhere in the September time.
Okay.
If they're still delayed, do you know if there's a cutoff date where they'd have to wait till the spring? Did they have?
You know, I didn't ask him that. I'm looking for the exact update, and I can't find it. If you give me 1 second, I'll be able to find it. He did not talk about.
My guess is there's no specific date. It probably just is when the water freezes over, they can't do it. Would be my guess.
Right. I'm sorry, I should have had this up. Let's see. just to bring you up to date on the Lake Quinsigamon Commission's activities, as the determining factor of when most things can be done in the lake is the biology of all the things growing in the lake. For the past month and a half, the Lake Quinsigamon Commission has been ensuring that the various non-Grafton funded weed treatments from Flint Pond in the south to Newton Pond in the north have been completed at the correct stages of the various invasive plants' growth. Thus, as the pollution levels in the water and sediments of Flint Pond do not have a biological growth stage determining when they must be performed, they have been delayed till late summer, early fall, after the essential weed treatments are done. Actually, this is the preferred time to do them, as they will then also catch any possible new pollution from this summer's activities as well. Now tell me, would you have asked any questions after reading that? I told him it was like one of the most thorough updates that we had ever seen. So, but
I
will-
actually
What?
did some kayaking on Lake Ripple just recently.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable how choked that is
I
with
know.
weeds. It's just unbelievable.
you have to get out there much earlier in the season to not have
Yeah.
to deal with that. But when I speak to Bill again, I'll ask if there's if there's any fear of it not getting done this season. It's a good question.
Okay, that's it for project updates.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried. Most likely, we will not meet in September. Unless
yeah, I mean-
there's because we've done all our work for town meeting. So unless there's a need, I mean, I'm just throwing this out there, we may not meet. But if we have project reports that we need to discuss, we'll meet.
Yeah. So do you want to just kind of play it by ear, and I'll touch base with the committee?
But we'll stay in touch and
You can decide if you feel like you need to meet or not.
Can I just request from Paul that if we don't meet, that he sends me an update for the common?
Yeah, I'll send you guys all an update once we know more.
And I'll check with Justin, not this Justin, my neighbor who's working on that up there.
okay.
Cause his brother-in-law's doing the, contracting.
Tonelli?
Yeah, they live in our neighborhood.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
So, I
everyone.
wanna take a
Thank you,
look
have a
at
nice holiday coming up.